Well, the honest answer is we really don't know what causes breast cancer. It's a very common disease. About 1 in 8 women in their lifetime will be diagnosed with breast cancer. Certainly, having a family history may put you at a higher risk of developing breast cancer. But many women, actually most women who develop breast cancer, do not have a family history. So it's not a situation where you could say, oh, I don't have a family history, I'm not going to get breast cancer, and to think that you're okay to not be screened to have mammograms. Well, breast cancer is the most common type of cancer for women, actually by far. It's about 30% of all the cancers women could develop. It's much more common than any other type of cancer that women could develop in their lifetime. Well, honestly, there's not a lot we can do to prevent breast cancer. It's more a matter of finding it early. So early detection really is the key. And early detection means doing your imaging, starting at age 40, getting a mammogram, maybe even earlier if you have a family history of breast cancer at young ages. And then I also like adding ultrasounds. I think especially in young women, ultrasounds really make a big difference in helping find breast cancer early. It's a good question why there's so much breast cancer, and we don't really know, in all honesty. It may be something in our environment, it may be something in our diet, but it's very difficult to try to figure this out. And it probably is, there is some environmental influence, that it may be something that occurs during puberty, so when we're teenagers, but you don't develop the breast cancer for 20, 30, 40 years later. So that's one of the reasons it's very challenging to try to sort out what is the real cause of breast cancer. The good and the bad news is that early breast cancer does not have any symptoms. So you don't know that you have breast cancer unless you have imaging. And many women even say to me, how could I possibly have breast cancer? I feel great. I eat a healthy diet, I exercise, do all the right things. How could I possibly have breast cancer? And what I tell them is you're the average woman with a diagnosis. And you need to be treated. And if found early, it's very treatable, it's very curable. And that's why screening is so important. We recommend starting mammograms at age 40 for women, and maybe even earlier if they have a strong family history of young breast cancer diagnoses. So typically we recommend having your first mammogram either at 40 or 10 years younger than your youngest first degree relative. So what that means is if you had a sister that had breast cancer at 45, then you would start mammograms at 35. And then, of course, there's also the issue of genetic testing with families that have breast cancer. And we do recommend that family members have genetic testing to find out they are at a very high risk of developing breast cancer and then be able to screen them appropriately. So breast exams really do help, self-breast exams. And I recommend once a month. And the best time to do the breast exam is after your menstrual period because the breasts are the least nodular and the least confusing at that point in time.